Hey everybody, Mike here, just checking in with you. I have to give my buddy John Radford a shout out. We were out the other night watching UFC fights. We went out to Buffalo Wild Wings, got some spicy chicken and some drinks and watched the fights. And he, if you don't know him, a friend through a friend, is a boxer and a trainer, and he runs a lot. And he knows that I run a lot. And he posed a question to me that kind of caught me off guard, but at the same time is a question I guess I've thought about and have looked into in the past. But he said, essentially, what's the deal with runner's high? Have you ever gotten it? Because I run a lot as a boxer, and with my boxers that I train, I run a lot and I've never gotten it. And we went down this deep conversation about how there has to be a little part of your brain that's that's not wired correctly to put yourself through this type of torture, both as a runner, then he as a boxer, and of course the UFC fighters on another level with the mixed martial arts. So we got into this great conversation, and I shout out to John because every time we meet up, he has some insightful thought or question about life, what we do, training, just in general. He's a very thoughtful guy. So John, thank you. I appreciate the question, and it got me thinking, and it's responsible for this video today. So what is runner's high? Have I ever experienced it? Of course, I come home that night and I'm thinking about the question a little bit later and the next day. And so I jump on Google, of course. I jump on Google, and it seems the research is mixed. It seems that initially or when they first started studying this concept, they thought there was a release of endorphins, that your body released endorphins. And through some studies, they found out that it may not be endorphins, something to do with the brain-blood barrier or something like that. Then they just discovered that it may be some cannabinoids, that it's not from smoking marijuana, but your body naturally produces some type of cannabinoid, and that may be what you're feeling after a run, that feeling that you get, that happiness. But then I also saw some studies that indicated when they poll runners, somewhere between 75, 80, 85% or higher indicate they've never had this feeling of a quote unquote runner's high. And I think I tend to fall in that category, and that's essentially the answer I gave John the other night, is that I've never really felt a runner's high. Now, after looking at some of the definitions and explanations and articles about the runner's high, it indicated that sometimes this describes a feeling that happens after a run, that it's not during a run like I thought it was. The answer I talked about the other night had to do with my feeling during a run. I gave an example last year, actually, when I ran the St. Jude half marathon, the Memphis Marathon weekend. I ran the half marathon. There was about a 3 to 4 mile section of the race that I have very hard time describing what happened during those 3 miles. At one point, I remember my watch beeping, indicating I had clicked off a mile. I said, oh wow, okay. That last mile was pretty quick, because I usually look down, make sure I'm on the right pace, keeping not too fast, not too slow. So I was like, oh wow, that was a quick mile for it being whatever it was, 8:45, 9 minutes, whatever the actual time was, felt a lot faster than that. And then it seemed like 20 seconds later, my watch beeped again. I said, well, that can't be right. That I must have hit the button, or I must have bumped it, because there's no way that next mile clicked off. It must have, something's wrong. And then another felt like a minute or two went by, my watch beeped again for a third mile. And I was in my head going, what the hell is going on? But in between those instances, I couldn't tell you what song was playing. I couldn't tell you what I ran past or what the scenery was. So I don't know if there's a bit of hypnosis that occurs. I apologize, this chair is pretty squeaky. I don't know if there's some kind of hypnosis that occurs, because I know when you go for a long drive, often one of the things you have to be concerned with is being hypnotized. If you're going, straight down I-95 for 2 hours, you might wake up and go, holy cow, how did we get to North Carolina already? You were attentive, you were paying attention, but you were hypnotized. So I'm wondering if that's what was going on last year in Memphis, that I just fell into a zone. I just fell into such a groove that my brain just shut everything down so I could just keep going. So I don't know that that would necessarily be a runner's high, but it's certainly something going on in my brain that I don't know how to explain other than how I just did. So the other aspect of it is at the end of a long run. And I will say this, there are times when I go out and run here in Florida where it's blazing hot. It's so unbelievably hot. And, I try to time my run so that I kind of do it, if I'm running in the afternoon, I kind of do it where the sun's going down. I don't have to put a sunblock on, the sun's low enough in the sky. I don't have to worry about getting sunburned. It's not super hot. And oftentimes here in Florida, we get afternoon showers. So if I time it right, I go after it rains, the earth is kind of cooled off a little bit. But there have been times where I've been out for a run like that, and I get back, I do a lot of my stretching in the driveway. So I do a lot of stretches on my back where I'm pulling my knee to my chest, I'm putting my leg over to, I have some hip issues, so I'm always stretching out my hips. And there have been times where I'm laying in the driveway and it's, it feels like of 90 something degrees and there's a slight breeze and I'm just staring up at the sky and it's this beautiful blue sky, clouds are going, birds are singing, and I do get some euphoric feeling. And I don't know if that's because of this rush of endorphins. I don't know if it's because of the scenery. I don't know if it's because I've then come down and I've relaxed from the long run. So I guess to answer the question from the other night, I'm not really sure. If I had to put my finger on whether or not I've had a runner's high, I think for me it's the answer, now that I've thought about it a couple days, I'd kind of say yes. But I don't feel like it's this sudden onslaught of like, zippity doo dah, running down the road and birds and, all these Disney characters. And, but I have had situations where after a long run, I felt calm, I felt peace, I felt happiness. And I'm very lucky, I'm very lucky in regards to where I'm at currently, my family life, my job life. All of that is very positive, and I try to stay very positive in looking at all those things. Even in the last 14 months now that we've been dealing with this insurance claim. If I haven't said it on here before, we had a dishwasher leak and mold issues, and we've been going through getting the house repaired, and we're about 99% done. And it's 14 months since the dishwasher actually leaked. So it's been a death by 1,000 paper cuts, but we've been continuously finding the silver linings throughout the process. And, I tell my wife, I'll tell anybody that asks that, if not for my wife, Darlene, and my son, Jacob, and my son, Cooper, and our ability to pull together and be a team and get through it and roll with the punches, I don't know how we would have made it, but we were able to do it. And so that's kind of how I feel, when I look at these runs. A great channel, This Messy Happy. He's a runner he grew up in England and he's based in Thailand. I believe now. He in one of his videos he talked about, you don't have to run, you get to run. In this world in 2023, we get to run. 100 years ago, there weren't people running for recreation in the manner in which we do today. But because of all of the things that have advanced and where we're at in the world, we get to run. So I get to enjoy it as a hobby and a way to keep fit and a way to exercise. And I try to keep that positive mentality about it. I can be negative with the best of them. But that positivity really pulls me through. I get to run. And I get to run to clear my head, to exercise, to escape, to think about things, all of those positive things, while torturing myself. So, very long-winded answer. And again, I want to thank John for bringing this up the other night. Very thought-provoking question, and made me think about how I feel after I run. And I guess the conclusion I'm coming to is I have felt the runner's high before. And I am high on running. I love it. I fell in love with it many years ago. I've always run for sports, and it's a great thing to get to do. I get to run. I really have been hanging on that phrase the last couple months, that I get to run. I don't have to run. I get to run. And that happy feeling I get after running, after a 10-mile run, or even sometimes after a 4-mile run, when I'm stretching and the sky's clear and birds are chirping, that's a great feeling. And if that's a runner's high, check the box. I've felt it. So anyway, Mike, as you know, running for St. Jude, link is always in the description. I love you guys. I appreciate you always listening to me when you do, donating, helping me, support me, giving me thumbs ups and likes and all that. So appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time. See ya.